we had to do was build out all of the musicality and the foley and sound design for all of the elements within the production as well. So in this video, I'm going to break down all of those different steps part by part and have a look at some of the favorite sound design elements as well, and show you how I built the musicality element up utilizing the sound design, all with the exception of the guitar, which is clearly a musical instrument. Now, the first thing to note is I ran our video through Thor, which gave me all of these markers here, as well as a breakdown of that we're in interior and what's roughly in each scene. Thor is currently a product that we are betaing to automatically create these kind of cue sheets for audio. So it was a really good opportunity to test that out. For example, here we can see this marker inside studio, person handling speaker. And if we go to that marker right there, that is exactly what we have right here. So really, really useful to get a good grasp of where everything is, whether it's internal, external, etc. First thing that I tackled for this was the guitar element. And I wanted to utilize that to get a rough idea of the BPM to work in. I ended up here working in 120 BPM. And the reason for that is some of the shots, sounds and movements line up roughly in that BPM just enough that I can put sounds slightly on and off exactly where they should land and still have a musicality element to it. I'll explain a little bit more of that as we go through it, but that allowed me to have a constant rhythm and music utilizing the sounds that you see and hear in the video. So the guitar itself isn't anything particularly special. In fact, it is a default guitar with a little bit of extra processing on it in terms of a compressor, EQ, a reverb here and another compressor, just dialing it in a little bit. And I wrote it all in one section, but then split it out into a second one here. Not anything particularly special, slightly off note, but pretty quantized to the grid, but just allows us establish that rhythm and just move sweetly through the notes, and utilizing the velocity layers here, like right at the start, to just start with that twang. Lots and lots of different changes in velocity where it tails off at the end here. Just really giving those ebbs and flows and trying to make it so we move in and out in terms of the way it like flams, strums, just up and down with the different parts of the video. When things are more intricate, we've got more melody in, for example, like here and here. And a nice pause there for that moment. You can see I actually have some notes in there, but I took that pause out to make that, like a marker here. And then I did a different section here where I elevated it and we start to ramp up a bit more in terms of velocity, and we get some more high twangs there, and the rhythm picks up a bit more as well. As you can see, we get louder and louder towards the end, right into crescendo. And nothing overly dramatic, but that just wrote that piece, and then we built everything else around that. Now, one key element for me was the whole time we're in an interior, which kind of shows the construction and process that the speakers are going through, right? Or monitors in this case. So I wanted to kind of have that in the background, always be a part of the story. So I ended up building this out in Alchemy. It's just a very weird sound, but it's still a bit musical. That just sits there in the background the whole time. It's got a constant note to it. And it's just kind of maybe got some chatter off in another room. It's got a bit of like air conditioning sound in it. That's all just sounds looping over in Alchemy here and processed and sent through reverb. So that sits in the background there the whole time, that hum. You might start to be aware of it now that you hear it. It's adding kind of noise to the recording, noise to the ambience to the whole thing. Let's have a look at the other elements that I use musicality wise. Just here, the speakers are getting kind of processed, and I wanted to do a little arpeggio that sat with those. I did that on the guitar originally, it didn't work, so we made this little section here. Just and that's just arpeggioed on the 120 BPM, but as close as I could have it in sync with the video as well. Actually, it's ever so slightly off, but it fits because it's as close to the sort of natural tempo of the video as possible, as well as sitting with the music. It just adds that little element to it, and when we've got the background noise and everything else set in with it, it works really, really nicely, and it's on rhythm of the actual track. I use this to create kind of the first part of the rhythm here. So if we're listening here, and this is just a little click from a plastic pot, effectively, with loads of reverb and compression on it. It just happens here. And that sets the first part of our rhythm. It's kind of the snare, really slow on the 1. And again, once everything else is in, it all just kind of sits together really nicely. This to create a kind of kick rhythm. I'll choose that's coming here in that cut, look. And there's only one more musical element, and this is actually shaking a box of nails. Wobbles in and out of rhythm the whole time. In terms of traditional music sense, that's everything there. A little bit of sound design here, tape on foam. It's just a tiny little sound here. Processing wise, we're hitting it quite hard with the compressor to give it that sort of impact. Certainly doesn't have that without it. Take it away. We're distorting it a fair bit. And here with Pro Q, we're actually boosting it here up at E. Because E is the fundamental of the guitar rhythm, so it sits it a little bit more nicely in tune with the guitar as it works its way through there. And let's have a listen to the snare sound as well with that effects off. So lots of reverb. That's how it is without. Very simple little click. And the compressor just to bring it up and really bring that reverb tail on. And our shaky box of nails. Again, similar kind of treatment. There's a noise gate here. If we take that off, there's other little noises in between. I just found it was better letting it close off and take away the really small elements. EQ takes everything away up to 6K. We've just got that top end right there. If we take that away, it's a lot more obvious what it is now, right? Especially if we take the noise gate away. Again, reverb, giving it loads of space. Now we can really hear it's a little box of nails, and the compressor. So together, just giving it that little top end element, a little bit of rhythm as we get about halfway through. This is just here as a little blocker because we're then into the kind of sound design element. And this is what I mean about having kind of some musicality, keeping it on rhythm, but also having it as sound design elements that you kind of expect to hear. So we've already used a little thud, a little tap on foam as our kick drum. This is a similar thing here. So if we have a listen to this. And there's almost no processing on this at all. It's just a raw recording. But we've kept it so it's as close as I could be to starting here on beat. And when you see the video and why we came to 120, really, I'd maybe do it a frame earlier, but we get away with it. And because everything else is rhythmic and musical with it, it actually works really quite nicely. And I've taken that theme throughout the whole thing of getting it as close as I possibly can each time. Now here, what's called Ratchet, we're actually using a plugin here. I didn't record anything for this. I'm using, I think, yeah, Kinetic Metal. And I wanted to have like some kind of like background machine noise when we first see the drill element. And again, I've had that land here. So it's right sort of on grid, on eighths, if you will. And then... So that gives that kind of creaking and mechanical noise of the compressor, and I've used it again here for the drill. So that carries on over into the next section when we get that. And they're both created by that, and that's utilised again later as well here. When we see that go in. This part here is my favourite sound. Absolutely love the way that turned out. That is just a piece of electrical tape being pulled really, really quickly right next to the mic. Let's solo that out. Now, the way the effect happens is I wanted to do that transition there into the speaker. It's just pushing into a reverb. So we take the reverb away. Very clearly tape, right? We just push that wet of the reverb right the way up as we go in and then pull that back out. And it's got pitch correction on it as well. I wanted to kind of tune that as close as possible for the kind of sound it is without having a tune, again, to E, so it sits right on that fundamental of the guitar. And you can see some tuning is taking place. 10 to 11 cents, just to dial it into E there. Which helps it sit in with everything else. And that's actually where I chose to pause the guitar to really highlight that sound and moment. And I don't use the black tape again anywhere else, despite it being my favourite. I didn't really want to overuse it. The bottle right here, I didn't want to use a digital sound for the clarification of, you know, the calibration passing. So I've actually got a metal bottle and I literally just flicked it with my finger and just doubled it up to create that right there. And there's a transpose on here as well, and to make it kind of musical, the second note is transposed down by 7 semitones and the first one's actually transposed up by 3, and that gives us that dun dun. And processing wise, just a little bump here in the low end. And again, keeping on the theme of wanting it to show exactly what it should show, but right on grid, so as close as possible on the eighths there, keeping it musically aligned with everything else. And we've got some work happening at the start here with a little bit of brush. It's just a shaving brush on a piece of acoustic foam. Again, making use of the compressor. Actually really bring up those fine details in the brush. So we take that away. Not too bad. If it gets a bit much, the compressor controls that for us. And the reverb really just lets it shine. Gives it a bit, allows it to sit in a bit more musically, right? Softens it up a bit. And drill battery right here. So this moment, clicking the tweeter here into the speaker. I didn't have anything that I think I could utilize that for. So that is the drill, the battery going back into the drill, and just cut again to sit sort of on the 8th as much as I could get away with. And then to get the drill sound here, actually just recorded the drill with a really flat battery so the motor can barely spin up. So it looks like I'm more of a hand screwdriver. And I've utilised those sounds elsewhere as well, the little pops and clicks and bits from the drill, like all of here. As you can see, called dead drill. And again, like this noise right here is arranged on 16th notes. So even though it's actually just the sound of the drill motor trying to spin with a flat battery, it's synced onto the 16th notes here, so it's got a rhythmic element to it. The click here drops right on beat, and the other snap here happening on the 8ths. Even though it maybe happens a little sooner, but I think the musical harmony of it worked a lot nicer. So yeah, all of that made with the sounds of the battery and the drill motor. Other bits here as well. And here for some transitional sounds, I've used more of the tape pull, but to tape measure this time. So to get those little camera whips, to reverse tape measure sound. I used the same technique right here for this one. And again, lined it up as much as I could get away with being on beat. And then this section kind of doesn't matter, but have it still finish on beat. All sits in with that rhythm and musicality. And we've got parts of the tape being used as percussion here. And that was to kind of give like a mechanical clicking factor of the machine. And that syncs up with the kinetic library. And that gives that impression, the whole transition using the same tape measure sounds. With the tape measure, pretty much everything's gone right up to 4K. It's just those little clicks at the top. If we take it away, it's not a vastly different sound, just making sure anything that was in there, like a bump of the mic or something, is definitely gone. The metal and foil at the start utilised the tape measure and a plastic wrapper. Crunchy, picking up a movement sound, so I needed like a metallic sound, but also something a little bit more crunchy and flimsy than the steel of a tape measure. So layering those two together gave the right feel. Just with a bit of timing difference, but again keeping it as musical as I could get away with in terms of its timing. Now, on the like wrapped cellophane thing, I've actually used Vocal Rider, weirdly enough, just to maintain it ever so slightly. It needed the kind of lag that Vocal Rider was giving just to have it work and keep it maintained. And here is Tiny Clink, which I believe is a screw being dropped. Again, just right in sync with everything else. Just to show that little moment happening there. Chair move. Chair being moved in my kitchen. Reversed, and that goes in as part of the black tape. Now it seems a bit odd the way it stands out here to kind of create that transition, but it does actually fit in nicely with the notation of the guitar, like so, and sweeps into that sudden stop of the guitar. It's like hitting a dud note, which causes the pause. Plastic pot again. It just seemed to fit perfectly with that item being placed in there. And the sounds that we hear at the start here, where the person appears to be setting up their workspace, is actually just me setting up my workspace when the microphone was on. So I just use that as setting up ambient, kind of like a happy accident moment. There's no effects or anything on it, just completely raw. That just seemed to work nicely. There's a bit of off-screen storytelling. And because we've got the tape measure being picked up at the end, it just went really nicely into the actual tape measure section here. Now for the placing of the part in here, I didn't really have anything that I could use. So I just moved the microphone around on its stand and recorded it and cut those up into a little rhythmic element to kind of simulate that sound. I feel that worked really nicely. And then they're obviously layered with the tap perk, and we've got metal brackets that are in the cellophane wrapper being dropped as well, and they just all line up together nicely. And they kind of seem off on their own, but bear in mind they've got the constant rhythm of the kick, the snare, and at this point we've brought in the nail shaker as well, so we've got all those different parts working together like so. We've got a really nice rhythm out of it. To note on our little drill sequence here, we've done a little bit of touch automation with the EQ here, just bringing some of the low end back into it with a bit of resonance, just to kind of simulate that screw sound going back in and how it would shift, rather than it just being a static motor. So that's been a deep dive into this little sound design project. I really hope it's been insightful for you. If you have any questions, ideas, or want to share anything, please do leave it in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching.